Here I'd just like to demonstrate a new piece of kit that I've just gained in my collection. This is a hardware representation simulation of the Garmin GNS530. This hardware is from Ruscool in New Zealand, and I've had quite a few dealings with the boys there. I don't have any affiliation with their business, however I'm simply an enthusiastic user, and I picked up this piece of kit from them recently. Fairly expensive, however I'm using it for supplementation of real-world training, so I thought it would be a very valuable piece of gear. I have it running through Microsoft Flight Sim 10 at the moment, but it would equally run on Prepared version 3 and version 4. So let's just turn it on. We can see here there's no startup animation at this point. However, that can be turned on or off within the software. Speaking of software, I'm using the Mindstar representation of the Garmin 530. And the reason I'm using Mindstar is that it activates via hardware, just the same as the other competitor, Reality XP. However, the Mindstar software has the added advantage of being able to be linked to a fully updatable navigation database. And for a home user, I can get quarterly updates for the navigation database, whereas I think Reality XP is locked, stuck at about 2010 or 2012 if you're lucky. So I chose the Mindstar primarily for that reason, and the fact that it does everything else that I want it to do. This piece of hardware obviously runs off a small screen, running off a VGA output of the Flight Sim computer. I'm running this off a laptop at the moment, as I said, running Microsoft Flight Sim 10. And the screen has been undocked, as you might be able to see there, and the gauge moved over to this screen. Activation via the rotary encoder here, changing the small digits on the COM frequency and the outer button for the large digits. Transferring to this active by pressing the transfer knob. Similarly with the VOR for nav frequency, pressing the inner knob on the COM button here transfers you down to the VOR frequencies, inner and outer knob the same, and then transferring with the transfer button. Buttons down the bottom work as expected: OBS, messaging, flight plan, VNav and procedure. And we have the right hand button, and when you have pages with multiple pages within them, we can turn this button and scroll through them. And if you've used any of these Garmin units within the software or with hardware, you'll know how these functions work. We have various buttons up here that all work as expected: direct to, and of course the range, changing the range of your map, quite important. So it's just a little demonstration of the hardware from Ruscool and also the software from Mindstar and how they interconnect. The Ruscool hardware does have a little configuration program that must run with Flight Sim, and that simply takes these keystrokes and transfers them into the sim via FSUIPC, and in combination with the Mindstar GNS INI file, those keystrokes must both match up for the various functions to work, and that's exactly the same for the Reality XP hardware. If you've ever used hardware with their INI files, it works precisely the same way. And those keystrokes are activated via the software for Ruscool into the Mindstar software itself. So that's all running, as I said, in Microsoft Flight Sim 10. But you could quite easily use it in Microsoft, or I should say Lockheed Martin Prepared version 3 or 4. So that's just a little demonstration of the hardware and software that I'm using for these Garmin units, and I hope that's given you some inspiration.